The antiseptic smell of Mercy General Hospital in Cleveland always reminded Sister Teresa of her own mortality. Room 314 was her destination this gray Tuesday afternoon, where an elderly man named Thomas Hartwell had specifically requested the presence of a nun. The hospital chaplain, Father Rodriguez, had called St. Mary's Convent that morning with an unusual plea. "He won't speak to me," Father Rodriguez had explained over the phone. "Says he needs to confess something to a woman of God, not a priest. Says it has to be someone who understands sacrifice." Now, standing outside room 314, Sister Teresa smoothed her gray habit and knocked gently. The man inside looked to be in his late 70s, his once powerful frame reduced to skin and bones beneath the thin hospital blanket. Tubes and wires connected him to various machines that beeped and hummed with mechanical precision. "Are you the nun?" His voice was barely a whisper, but his pale blue eyes were alert and focused. "I'm Sister Teresa from St. Mary's. You asked to see me?" Thomas Hartwell studied her face for a long moment, as if memorizing every detail. "Down, please. What I'm about to tell you, it's going to sound impossible." "Sit," Sister Teresa pulled the plastic visitor's chair closer to his bed. In her 15 years of hospital ministry, she had heard every kind of deathbed confession imaginable. This felt different somehow, charged with an urgency that made the air in the room feel electric. "I'm listening," she said gently. Thomas reached under his pillow with trembling fingers and withdrew a small, worn leather journal. Its pages were yellowed with age, and the binding was held together with what looked like a shoelace. "This belonged to my grandmother, Sister Mary Augustine Hartwell. She was a nun at the Convent of the Sacred Heart in Chicago from 1943 to 1987. Sister Teresa accepted the journal, feeling the weight of decades in her hands. The leather was soft with age, and she could see that many pages had been written in a careful, feminine script. "Your grandmother was a nun? That's wonderful. Many families are blessed to have religious vocations. That's what I thought too, until I read her journal after she died. Sister, my grandmother wasn't just any nun. She was involved in something during World War II that changed the course of history, and she made me promise to find another sister, someone who would understand and give this to them before I died." Thomas's breathing was becoming more labored, and Sister Teresa could see that even this conversation was taxing his remaining strength. "What kind of involvement?" "Open it to the entry dated December 7th, 1943, page 47. Sister Teresa carefully turned the brittle pages until she found the date. The handwriting was neat and precise, despite obvious haste. "Today I helped save the life of a Jewish scientist named Dr. Rebecca Goldstein. She had been smuggled out of Auschwitz by the Underground Railroad that Father Kowalski and I have been secretly supporting. Dr. Goldstein is pregnant and barely alive, but she's carrying information that could end this war years earlier than anyone expects. The formulas she memorized before escaping, if they fall into the right hands, American scientists could develop weapons that would make Nazi Germany surrender immediately." Sister Teresa looked up at Thomas, her eyes wide. "Underground Railroad?" "Your grandmother was part of the Keep Reading," he whispered. "Dr. Goldstein died in childbirth this morning, but not before she made me write down everything she had memorized. Pages and pages of mathematical formulas, chemical equations, theoretical physics that I don't understand, but that she insisted were vital to America's war effort. She made me promise to get this information to Dr. Robert Oppenheimer at Los Alamos. She said these formulas would help American scientists understand how to control atomic fusion more efficiently, how to build a weapon that could end the war without invading Japan. Sister Teresa's hands began to shake as she continued reading. I've made copies of everything and hidden them in different locations. One set goes to Los Alamos through Father Kowalski's contacts in military intelligence. But Dr. Goldstein made me promise to keep one complete set safe, hidden away, because she said there were other applications for these formulas, peaceful applications that could change the world. Someday, she told me, when the world is ready for clean energy, for power that doesn't destroy the environment, these equations will be more valuable than all the gold in the world. The journal entry continued for several more pages, detailing how Sister Mary Augustine had successfully delivered the information to American scientists and how she had hidden the duplicate set of formulas in a location known only to her. "Sister," Thomas whispered, drawing her attention back to his pale face. "My grandmother never told anyone where she hid those formulas. Not the church, not the government, not even our family. She said they were too dangerous, that the world wasn't ready for that kind of power. And now? Now I'm dying, and she came to me in a dream 3 nights ago. Told me it was time. Told me to find a nun who would understand sacrifice and give her this journal. The hiding place is written in code on the last page." Sister Teresa turned to the final entry in the journal, dated just days before Sister Mary Augustine's death in 1987. If someone is reading this, it means Thomas has kept his promise, and the time has finally come. The world is choking on its own pollution. Wars are fought over oil and gas, and clean energy remains a dream. But Dr. Rebecca Goldstein's formulas could change all of that. The location is where we first met, where innocence meets wisdom, where the children learn of God's love. Look for the cornerstone laid by Irish hands beneath the cross that points to heaven. The numbers that unlock the future are the date she died, 12/07/1943. "She's talking about the convent school," Thomas said, his voice growing weaker. "The Convent of the Sacred Heart ran a school for immigrant children. My grandmother taught there for 40 years. The cornerstone, it was laid by Irish stone masons in 1889. Sister Teresa closed the journal carefully, her mind reeling with the implications of what she had just read. "Thomas, if this is true, if these formulas really exist, and they're what your grandmother claimed they are, they could solve the energy crisis, end dependence on fossil fuels, give us clean, unlimited power." Thomas's eyes were bright, with fever and determination. "But sister, there's something else, something my grandmother never wrote down, because it was too dangerous." He reached under his mattress and pulled out a manila envelope, sealed with wax, that looked decades old. Dr. Goldstein wasn't just any Jewish scientist. She was Dr. Rebecca Goldstein Einstein, Albert Einstein's niece. The formulas she memorized weren't just her own work. They were based on theoretical papers her uncle had been developing in secret, papers that were too dangerous to publish, too powerful to trust to any government. Sister Teresa felt the world tilt around her. Einstein's niece? The Nazi government never knew they had her at Auschwitz. They thought she was just another Jewish woman. But she had been working with her uncle on applications of relativity theory that went far beyond weapons. Clean fusion, zero-point energy, theoretical physics that could revolutionize how humans interact with the natural world. Thomas pressed the envelope into her hands. "This contains the original documents Dr. Goldstein gave my grandmother, written in Einstein's own handwriting. His signature is on every page. If the scientific community knew these existed..." Why didn't your grandmother turn them over to scientists years ago? Thomas's breathing was becoming increasingly shallow. Because she believed, like Dr. Goldstein did, that humanity wasn't ready. Look what we did with nuclear fission. We built bombs that could destroy the world. Imagine what we might do with unlimited clean energy if we're not spiritually prepared for that kind of power. Sister Teresa sat in silence, holding documents that could potentially change the course of human civilization. The weight of the responsibility was overwhelming. What am I supposed to do with this, Thomas? My grandmother said the right person would know. She said God would guide them to use this knowledge when humanity was ready to be trusted with it. You're a woman of God, sister. You understand sacrifice. You understand the difference between power and responsibility. Thomas closed his eyes, and for a moment, Sister Teresa thought he had passed away. But then he spoke again, his voice barely audible. There's a foundation in Geneva, Switzerland, the International Clean Energy Research Initiative. It's run by scientists from around the world who are dedicated to developing sustainable energy sources for humanitarian purposes, not profit. Dr. Elena Vasquez heads the organization. My grandmother researched them for years before she died. She trusted them. How do you know all this? Because I've spent the last 30 years following her instructions, watching, waiting, making sure the foundation remained pure in its mission. Dr. Vasquez doesn't know I exist, but I know everything about her work. She's dedicated her life to solving the energy crisis without compromising environmental or ethical standards. Thomas reached for Sister Teresa's hand with fingers that felt like ice. Promise me you'll take this to her. Promise me you'll make sure these formulas are used to help humanity, not to create new weapons or make rich men richer. I promise, Sister Teresa said, though she had no idea how she would fulfill such a monumental commitment. Thomas smiled, the first genuine expression of peace she had seen on his face. Watch is ended. My grandmother can finally rest. Then he died 20 minutes later, as the sun was setting over Lake Erie, painting the hospital room in shades of gold and amber. Sister Teresa sat beside his body for a long time, holding the journal and the envelope, trying to process the magnitude of what had just been entrusted to her. The funeral was small. Thomas had outlived most of his family and friends. But Sister Teresa spoke at the service, describing him as a man who had carried a sacred trust his entire life and had passed it on with dignity and purpose. The trip to the convent of the Sacred Heart in Chicago revealed exactly what Sister Mary Augustine's journal had promised. The cornerstone, laid by Irish masons in 1889, had been carved with a small cross that pointed toward the school's chapel. Beneath it, exactly where the journal indicated, was a metal box containing hundreds of pages of mathematical formulas, theoretical diagrams, and scientific notes in multiple handwritings. But the most stunning discovery was a personal letter from Albert Einstein to his niece, dated just weeks before her capture by Nazi forces. My dear Rebecca, the equations we have developed together represent both humanity's greatest hope and its greatest danger. I have decided that they must remain hidden until our species demonstrates the wisdom to use such power responsibly. You are the only person I trust with this knowledge. If something happens to me, if something happens to you, these formulas must be preserved for a future generation that has learned to choose compassion over conquest. The letter was signed with Einstein's distinctive signature and included detailed explanations of how the formulas could be used not just for energy production, but for medical applications, space exploration, and environmental restoration. that seemed almost miraculous. Sister Teresa spent weeks in prayer and consultation with other religious leaders before making her decision. The formulas were too important to hide away indefinitely, but too dangerous to release without careful consideration of the consequences. Her trip to Geneva was the first time she had ever left the United States. Dr. Elena Vasquez, a brilliant physicist who had dedicated her career to sustainable energy research, was initially skeptical when a Catholic nun appeared at her laboratory, claiming to have documents that could revolutionize science. That skepticism disappeared when Sister Teresa opened the metal box and revealed pages of equations in Einstein's handwriting. Formulas that made Dr. Vasquez's eyes widen with recognition and wonder. These equations, they solve problems we've been working on for decades, Dr. Vasquez whispered, studying the documents with trembling hands. If these are authentic, if they're really Einstein's work, this could provide clean energy for the entire planet. They're authentic, Sister Teresa confirmed, but they come with conditions. Over the next several hours, she explained the history of the documents, the sacrifices that had preserved them, and the spiritual responsibility that came with such knowledge. Dr. Vasquez listened with growing amazement and respect. You want us to use these formulas, but only for humanitarian purposes. No weapons, no private profit, no applications that could harm the environment or exploit developing nations. Exactly. Dr. Goldstein and Albert Einstein believed that this knowledge should serve all of humanity, not just the wealthy and powerful. The International Clean Energy Research Initiative agreed to Sister Teresa's conditions. The Einstein formulas became the foundation for a new generation of clean energy technology that was shared freely with scientists around the world. Within 5 years, the first fusion reactors based on Einstein's hidden equations were providing clean electricity to millions of people. The technology was released under open-source licenses, ensuring that no single corporation or government could monopolize its benefits. Sister Teresa returned to her work at St. Mary's Convent, but she remained in contact with Dr. Vasquez and the Geneva team. She served on the Foundation's Ethics Committee, helping to ensure that each new application of the Einstein formulas was evaluated for its potential impact on human dignity and environmental sustainability. The story of the nun who had inherited Einstein's lost equations became international news, but Sister Teresa consistently deflected attention to the real heroes. Sister Mary Augustine, who had risked her life to preserve the knowledge. Dr. Rebecca Goldstein Einstein, who had died to protect it, and Thomas Hartwell, who had spent his lifetime safeguarding it. Years later, when asked how she had found the courage to take on such enormous responsibility, Sister Teresa would smile and say, "I didn't choose this burden. It chose me." But that's how grace works. It finds us in the most unexpected places and asks us to become more than we ever thought possible. The Journal of Sister Mary Augustine Hartwell is now preserved in the Vatican archives, alongside a letter from the Pope commending the courage of the women and men who had preserved Einstein's legacy for the benefit of all humanity. The clean energy revolution that followed changed the world in ways that even Einstein might not have imagined, ending dependence on fossil fuels and providing unlimited power for human development while protecting the environment that sustains all life. And in a small room at Mercy General Hospital in Cleveland, a plaque commemorates Thomas Hartwell, whose deathbed gift to a visiting nun became one of the most important scientific discoveries in human history. The plaque reads simply, "Some secrets are too important to keep, and some trusts too sacred to break."